Wake up. We are here. You are finally awake. You are the one from my dreams. I've decided to do what many gamers are completely incapable of doing. I'm going to read. I will be starting with the Varieties of Faith in the Empire by Brother Michael Karkuxer of the Imperial College. In reality, written by Michael Kirkbride. According to the Imperial Library, this book is supposed to be in Oblivion, but I could not find any other source that says where to find it in Oblivion. So if you do know where to find it in-game, please let me know. Otherwise, this book is just found in Morrowind and Skyrim, and is a terrible start to a Oblivion-focused series, but whatever. I'm gonna make this brief, because this is a big one, but I do want to go a little deeper into the concepts of stasis and change, order and chaos, Anu and Padme. These are the primordial forces in the beginning of existence that are the basis for the ideologies of these pantheons. The basic difference between the two is how they end up treating their creator god. So a religion that would be considered Anuic would believe that the creation of the world was not done through honesty, but through trickery. They believe that the order that the original spirits thrived in was taken away from them. A big part of their belief system is trying to find a way to return to that original place to be where they believe they are meant to be. A Padmaic religion, on the other hand, believes that the changes that created the world were blessings. They believe that the gods willingly sacrificed their power to give their spirits new life. One thing that I want to get across with this is that this isn't a concept of good versus evil or men versus elves in ideology. There are Anuic and Padmaic influences that you can see in both, sometimes the same religion. And I just want you to be thinking about that as we go through the list of gods today. So, let's begin. This is my best attempt at a listing of the pantheons and associated divine spirits of Tamriel's dominant cultures. This list is by no means complete. The imperial city of Cyrodiil alone boasts a vast host of saints and holy spirits. It only includes the most important spirits revered by the native members of the culture. Other Etata, especially Daedra, are often familiar known to many cultures. Those specific names are included here only when they possess a particular cultural significance. The omission of any reference to the worships of the Argonians of Blackmarsh is the result of my complete inadequacy in reconciling the obscure and contradictory accounts available to me on that subject. These are the 8 pantheons that we will be discussing in this text. Instead of going through it alphabetically all at once, like in the original, I will be going through their sections as they appear on this list, just in case there is any confusion. Akatosh, Dragon God of Time. Akatosh is the chief deity of the 9 divines, the other religious cult of Cyrodiil and its provinces, and one of the 2 deities found in every Tamrielic religion. The other is Lorkhan. He is generally considered to be the first of the gods to form in the beginning place. After his establishment, the other spirits found the process of being easier, and the various pantheons of the world emerged. He is the ultimate god of the Cyrodiilic Empire, where he embodies the qualities of endurance, invincibility, and everlasting legitimacy. Dibella, goddess of beauty, popular of the 9 divines. In Cyrodiil, she has nearly a dozen different cults, some devoted to women, some to artists and aesthetics, and others to erotic instructions. Arkey, god of the cycle of life and death, member of the 9 divines pantheon, and popular elsewhere as well. Arkey is often more important in those cultures where his father, Akatosh, is either less related to time, or where his time aspects are difficult to comprehend by the layman. He is the god of burials and funeral rites, and is sometimes associated with the seasons. His priests are staunch opponents of necromancy and all forms of the undead. It is said that Arkey did not exist before the world was created by the gods under Lorkhan's supervision, urging trickery. Therefore, he is sometimes called the mortal's god. Zenithar, God of work and commerce, trader god. Member of the Nine Divines, Zenithar is understandably associated with Zen. In the Empire, however, he is a far more cultivated god of merchants and middle nobility. His worshippers say, despite his mysterious origins, Zenithar is the god that will always win. Mara, goddess of love. Nearly universal goddess. Origin started in mythic times as a fertility goddess. In Skyrim, Mara is a handmaiden of Kyne. In the Empire, she is mother goddess. She is sometimes associated with Nur of the Anuad, the female principle of the cosmos that gave birth to creation. Depending on the religion, she is either married to Akatosh or Lorkhan, or the concubine of both. Stendarr, god of mercy. God of the Nine Divines, Stendarr has evolved from his Nordic origins to a deity of compassion or sometimes righteous rule. He is said to have accompanied Tiber Septim in his later years. In early Altmeri legends, Stendarr is the apologist of men. Kynareth, goddess of air. Kynareth is a member of the Nine Divines, the strongest of the sky spirits. In some legends, she is the first to agree to Lorkhan's plan to invent the mortal plane and provide the space for its creation in the void. She is also associated with rain, a phenomenon said not to occur before the removal of Lorkhan's divine spark. Julianos, god of wisdom and logic. Often associated with Junal, the Nordic father of language and mathematics, Julianos is the Cyrodiilic god of literature, law, history, and contradiction. Monastic orders founded by Tiber Septim and dedicated to Julianos are the keepers of the Elder Scrolls. Shezzar, god of man, Cyrodiilic version of Lorkhan, whose importance suffers when Akatosh comes to the fore of imperial Elysian religion. Shezzar was the spirit behind all human undertaking, especially against Altmeri aggression. He is sometimes associated with the founding of the first Cyrodiilic battle mages. In the present age of race tolerance, Shezzar is all but forgotten. Tiber Septim, Talos, the Dragonborn. Heir to the seat of the Sundered Kings, Tiber Septim is the most important hero god of mankind. He conquered all Tamriel and ushered in the Third Era and the Third Empire, also called Ysmir, Dragon of the North. Morihaus, first breath of man. Ancient cultural hero god of the Syro-Nordics, legend portrays him as the taker of the Citadel, an act of mythic times that established human control over the Valley Heartland. He is often associated with the Nordic power of Tsun, and therefore with Kynareth. Reman, the Cyrodiil, culture god hero of the Second Empire. Reman was the greatest hero of the Akaviri trouble. Indeed, he convinced the invaders to help him build his own empire, and conquered all of Tamriel, except for Morrowind. He instituted the rites of becoming emperor, which included the ritual guise of the Amulet of Kings, a soul gem of immense power. His dynasty was ended by the Morag Tong at the end of the First Era, also known as the Worldly God. Alduin, the World Eater. Alduin is the Nordic variation of Akatosh, and only superficially resembles his counterpart in the Nine Divines. For example, Alduin's sobriquet, the World Eater, comes from the myths that depict him as the horrible, ravaging firestorm that destroyed the last world to begin this one. Nords therefore see the god of time as both a creator and a harbinger of the apocalypse. He is not the chief of the Nordic pantheon. In fact, that pantheon has no chief. See Shor below. But its wellspring, albeit a grim and frightening one. Orkey, Old Knocker, a lone god of the Nords, who seemed to have taken up his worship during Altmeri rule about Mora. Nords believe they once lived as long as elves until Orkey appeared. Through heathen trickery, he fooled them into a bargain that bound them to the Count of Winters. At one time, legends say Nords only had the lifespan of 6 years due to Orkey's foul magic. Shor showed up, though, and through unknown means, removed the curse, throwing most of it onto nearby orcs. Tsun, extinct Nordic god of trials against adversity, died defending Shor from foreign gods. Stuhn, god of ransom, Nordic precursor to Stendarr, brother of Stuhn, shield thane of Shor, Stuhn was the warrior god that fought against the Aldmeri pantheon. He showed men how to take and the benefits of taking prisoners of war. Kyne, kiss at the end, Nordic goddess of the storm, widow of Shor and favored god of warriors. She is often called the mother of men. Her daughters taught the first Nords the use of the Thun, or storm voice. Junal, rune god, the Nordic god of hermetic orders. After falling out of favor with the rest of the pantheon, he became Julianos of the Nine Divines. He is absent in modern Skyrim mythology. Shor, god of the underworld, Nordic version of Lorkhan, who takes sides with men after the creation of the world. Foreign gods, i.e. elven gods, conspire against him and bring about his defeat, dooming him to the underworld. Admoran myth depict him as a bloodthirsty warrior king who leads the Nords to victory over their Altmeri oppressors time and again. Before his doom, Shor was the chief of the gods, sometimes called the children's god. See Orkey above. Ysmir, dragon of the north, the Nordic aspect of Talos. He withstood the power of the Greybeard's voice long enough to hear their prophecy. Later, many Nords could not look on him without seeing a dragon. Herma-Mora, the woodland man, ancient Almoran demon who had at one time nearly seduced the Nords into becoming Aldmer. Most Ysgramor myths are about escaping the wilds of old Herma-Mora. Also called the Demon of Knowledge, he's vaguely related to the cult origins of the Morag Tong, Foresters Guild, if only by association with her brother-sister Mafala. Auri-El, king of the Aldmer. The elven Akatosh is Auri-El. Auri-El is the soul of Anu-El, who in turn is the soul of Anu the Everything. He is the chief of most Aldmeri pantheons. Most Altmeri and Bosmeri claim direct descent from Auri-El. In his only known moment of weakness, he agreed to take part in the creation of the mortal plane, that act which forever sundered the elves from the spirit worlds of eternity. To make up for it, Auri-El led the original Aldmer against the armies of Lorkhan in mythic times, vanquishing the tyrant and establishing the first kingdoms of Altamora, and Old El-Nefeh. He then ascended to heaven in full observance of his followers, so that they might learn the steps needed to escape the mortal plane. Trinimac, god of early Aldmer. In some places more popular than Auri-El, he was a warrior spirit of the original elven tribes that led armies against the men. Boethia is said to have assumed his shape. In some stories, he even eats Trinimac, so that he can convince the throng of Aldmer to listen to him, which led to their eventual chimeric conversion. He vanishes from the mythic stage after this, to return as the dread Malakath. Altmeri propaganda portrays this as the dangers of Dunmeri influence. Magnus, the god of sorcery. Magnus withdrew from the creation of the world at the last second, though it cost him dearly. What is left of him on the world is felt and controlled by mortals as magic. One story says that while the idea was thought up by Lorkhan, it was Magnus who created the schematics and the diagrams needed to construct the mortal plane. He is sometimes represented by an astrolabe, a telescope, or more commonly, a staff. Cyrodiilic legends say he can inhabit the bodies of powerful magicians and lend them his power, associated with Zoran Arctus, the Underking. Syrabane, warlock's god, an Aldmeri god ancestor of magic. Syrabane aided Bendu Ulu in the fall of the Slode. Through judicious use of his magic ring, Syrabane saved many from the scourge of the Thracian plague. He is also called the Apprentice's god, for he is a favorite of young members of the Mages Guild. Y'ffre, god of the forest, most important deity of the Bosmeri pantheon. While Auri-El Time Dragon might be the king of the gods, the Bosmer revere Y'ffre as the spirit of the now. According to the Wood Elves, after the creation of the mortal plane, everything was in chaos. The first of the mortals were turning into plants and animals and back again. Then Y'ffre transformed himself into the first of the El-Nefeh, or Earth Bones. After these laws of nature were established, mortals had a semblance of safety in the new world, because they can finally understand it. Y'ffre is sometimes called the storyteller, for the lessons he taught the first Bosmer. Some Bosmer still possess the knowledge of the Chaos Times, which they can use to great effect, the Wild Hunt. Xarxes. Xarxes is the god of ancestry and secret knowledge. He began as a scribe to Auri-El, and has kept track of all Aldmeri accomplishments, large and small, since the beginning of time. He created his wife, Ogma, from his favorite moments in history. Lorkhan, the missing god. This creator, trickster, tester deity is in every Tamrielic mythic tradition. His most popular name is the Aldmeri Lorkhan, or Doom Drum. He convinced or contrived the original spirits to bring about the creation of the mortal plane, upsetting the status quo, much like his father Padme had introduced instability into the universe in the beginning place. After the world is materialized, Lorkhan is separated from his divine center, sometimes involuntarily, and wanders the creation of Edada. He and the metaphysical placement in the scheme of things is interpreted in a variety of ways. In Morrowind, for example, he is a being related to the Psijic endeavor, a process by which mortals are charged with transcending the gods that created them. To the High Elves, he is the most unholy of all higher powers, as he forever broke the connection to the spirit plane. In Legends, he is almost always an enemy of the Aldmer, and therefore a hero of early mankind. Phynaster, hero god of the Somerset Isles, who taught the Altmer how to naturally live another 100 years by using a shorter walking stride. Zen, god of toil. Bosmeri, god of payment in kind. Studies indicate origins in both Argonian and Akaviri mythologies, perhaps introduced into Valenwood by Konthringi sailors. Ostensibly an agriculture deity, Zen sometimes proves to be an entity of much higher cosmic order. His worship died out shortly after the Kynareth flu. Baan Dar, the bandit god. In most regions, Baan Dar is a marginal deity, a trickster spirit of thieves and beggars, and elsewhere he is more important and is regarded as the pariah. In this aspect, Baan Dar becomes the cleverness or desperate genius of long-suffering Khajiits, whose last-minute plans always upset the machinations of their elven or human enemies. Jode, Big Moon God. Aldmeri god of the Big Moon, also called Masser or Mara's Tear. In Khajiiti religion, Jode is only one aspect of the lunar lattice, or Ja Kajay. Joan, Little Moon God. Aldmeri god of the Little Moon, also called Secunda, or Stendarr's Sorrow. In Khajiiti religion, Joan is only one aspect of the lunar lattice, or Ja Kajay. Amalexia, Mother Morrowind. Most traces of Akatosh disappear from ancient Kyne legends during their so-called exodus, primarily due to that god's association and esteem with the Altmeri. However, most aspects of Akatosh which seem so important to mortal races, namely immortality, historicity, and genealogy, have conveniently resurfaced in Amalexia, the most popular of Morrowind's divine tribunal. Vivec, Master of Morrowind. Warrior poet god of the Dunmer, Vivec is the invincible keeper of the Holy Land, ever vigilant against the dark gods of the volcano. She has saved the Dunmeri people from certain death on numerous occasions, most notably when she taught them how to breathe water for the day so that she could flood Morrowind and kill the Akaviri invaders, circa 2nd Era 572. Sothasil, Mystery of Morrowind. God of the Dunmer, Sothasil is the least known of the divine tribunal. He is said to be reshaping the world from his hidden clockwork city. Boethia, Prince of Plots. Heralded by the prophet Veloth, Boethia is the original god ancestor of the Dark Elves. Through his illuminations, the eventual Kymer, or Changed Folk, renounced all ties to the Aldmer and founded a new nation based off Daedric principles. All manner of dark elven cultural advances are attributed to Boethia. From philosophy to magic to responsible architecture, ancient Velothi allegories are uniformly heroic successes of Boethia over enemies of every type, foundational stories of Kymer struggle, also known as the anticipation of Amalexia. Mephala, Androgyne. Mephala is the web spinner, or the spider god. In Morrowind, she was the ancestor that taught the Kymer the skills they would need to evade their enemies or kill them with secret murder. Enemies were numerous in those days, since the Kymer were a small faction. She, along with Boethia, organized the clan system that eventually became the basis for the Great Houses. She founded the Morag Tong, also called the Anticipation of Vivec. Azura, goddess of dusk and dawn. Azura was the god ancestor that taught the Chimer the mysteries needed to be different than the Ultimar. Some of her more conventional teachings are sometimes attributed to Boethia. In the stories, Azura is often more of a communal cosmic force for the race as a whole than an ancestor or a god, also known as the anticipation of Sotha Sil. In Elsewhere, Azura is nearly a wholly separate entity, yet she is still tied to the origins of Khajiit out of Altmeri stock. Nerevar, god killer. The Chimeric king of Resdain, the golden age of Old Veloth. Slain in the Battle of Red Mountain, Nerevar was the herald of the Triune Way, and was the foremost of the saints of Dunmeri faith. He is said to have killed King Dumac, the last dwarven king, and feasted on his heart. Molag Bal, god of schemes, king of rape. Daedric power of much importance in Morrowind. There, he is always the arch-enemy of Boethia, the prince of plots. He is the main source of the obstacles to the Dunmer and preceding Chimer people. In the legends, Molag Bal always tries to upset the bloodlines of the houses, or otherwise ruin Dunmeri purity. A race of supermonsters, said to live in Molag Amar, are the results of his seduction of Vivek during the previous era. Malakath, god of curses. Malakath is the reanimated dung that was Trinimac, a somewhat weak but vengeful Daedra. The Dark Elves say he is also Malak, the god king of the orcs. He always tests the Dunmer for physical weakness. Malok, Malakath. An Orcish god, Malok troubled the heirs of King Harald for a long time. Fled east after his defeat at Battle of Dragon Wall, circa First Era, 660. His rage was said to fill the sky with his sulphurous hatred, later called the Year of Winter and Summer. Sheogorath, the Mad God. The fearful obstinance of Sheogorath is widespread, and is found in most Tamrielic quarters. Contemporary sources indicate that his roots are in Aldmeri creation stories. Therein he is born when Lorkhan's divine spark is removed. One crucial myth calls him the Sithis-shaped hole of the world. Mehrunes Dagon, god of destruction. Popular Daedric power, he is associated with natural dangers like fire, earthquakes, and floods. In some cultures, though, Dagon is merely a god of bloodshed and betrayal. He is an especially important deity in Morrowind, where he represents its near inhospitable terrain. Sadakal, the World Skin. Yakuden god of everything, a fusion of concepts of Anu and Padme. Basically, Sadakal is much like the Nordic Alduin, who destroys one world to begin the next. In Yakuden mythology, Sadakal has done and still does this many times over, a cycle which prompted the birth of spirits that could survive the transition. These spirits ultimately became the Yakuden pantheon, popular god of the Alkiri nomads. Ruptga, Tall Papa. Chief deity of the Yakuden pantheon, Ruptga, more commonly Tall Papa, was the first god to figure out how to survive the hunger of Sadakal. Following his lead, the other gods learned the walkabout, or a process by which they can persist beyond one lifetime. Tall Papa set the stars in the sky to show lesser spirits how to do this too. When there were too many spirits to keep track of, though, Ruptga created a helper out of the dead skin of past worlds. This helper is Sep, see below, who later creates the world of the mortals. Tuwaka, tricky god, Yakuden god of souls. Tuwaka, before the creation of the world, was the god of nobody really cares. When Tall Papa undertook the creation of the walkabout, Tuwaka found a purpose. He became the caretaker of the far shores, and continues to help the Redguards find their way into the afterlife. His cult is sometimes associated with Arkey in the more cosmopolitan regions of Hammerfell. Zet, god of farms. Yakuden god of agriculture, renounced his father after the world was created, which is why Tall Papa makes it so hard for food to grow. Morwa, Teat god, Yakuden fertility goddess, fundamental deity in the Yakuden pantheon, and the favorite of Tall Papa's wives. Still worshipped in various areas of Hammerfell, including Stros Makai. Morwa is always portrayed as four-armed, so that she can grab more husbands. Tava, bird god, Yakuden spirit of the air. Tava is most famous for leading the Yakudens to the Isle of Herne after the destruction of their homeland. She has since become assimilated into the mythology of Kynareth. She is still very popular in Hammerfell among sailors, and her shrines can be found in most port cities. Maluk, Horde King, an enemy god of the Regatta, led the goblins against the Red Guards during the First Era, fled east when the army of the Hunding took over his goblin hordes. Diagna, Orichalc god of the Sideways Blade, hoary thuggish cult of the Red Guards, originated in Yakuta during the 27 Snake Folk slaughter. Diagna was the avatar of the Hunding, the Yakutan god of Make Way, see below, that achieved permanence. He was instrumental to the defeat of the left-handed elves, as he brought orichalc weapons to the Yakutan people to win the fight. In Tamriel, he led a very tight-knit group of followers against the Orcs of Orsinium during the height of their ancient power, but faded into obscurity. He is now little more than a local power spirit of the Dragontail Mountains. Sep, the Snake, Yakutan version of Lorkhan. Sep is born when Tall Papa creates someone to help him regulate the spirit trade. Sep, though, is driven crazy by the hunger of Sadakal and convinces some of the gods to help him make an easier alternative to the walkabout. This, of course, is the world as we know it, and the spirits who followed Sep become trapped here to live out their lives as mortals. Sep is punished by Tall Papa for his transgressions, but his hunger lives on as the void in the stars, a non-space that tries to upset mortal entry into the far shores. Hunding, the Make-Way god, Yakutan spirit of perseverance over infidels. The Hunding has historically materialized whenever the Red Guards need to make way for their people. In Tamrielic history, this has only happened 3 times, twice in the First Era during the Regatta invasion, and once during the Tiber War. In this last incarnation, the Hunding was said to have been either a sword or a crown, or both. Leki, Saint of the Spirit Sword, goddess daughter of Tall Papa. Leki is the goddess of aberrant swordmanship. The Natotamambu of Yakuta warred to a standstill during the Mythic Era to decide who would lead the charge against the left-handed elves. Their swordmasters, though, were so skilled in the best-known cuts as to be matched evenly. Leki introduced the ephemeral feint. Afterwards, a victor emerged, and the war with the Aldmer began. Onsai, Bone Shaver, notable warrior god of the Yakutan Regatta. Onsai taught mankind how to pull their knives into swords. Shor, Bad Man. In Brittany, the Bad Man is the source of all strife. He seems to have started as the god of crop failure, but most modern theologians agree that he is the demonized version of the Nordic Shor, born during the Dark Years after the fall of Sarthal. Alkosh, Dragon King of Cats. Pre-Redatta dynasty Iniquini deity, a variation on the Altmeri Auri-El, and thus an Akatosh as culture hero for the earliest Khajiit. His worship was co-opted during the establishment of Riddle'Thar, and he still enjoys immense popularity in Elsewhere's wasteland regions. He is depicted as a fearsome dragon, a creature the Khajiit say is just a really big cat. He repelled an early Aldmeri pogrom of Pelinal Whitestrike during the mythic times. Riddle'Thar, Two Moons Dance. The cosmic order deity of the Khajiit, the Riddle'Thar was revealed to Elsewhere by the prophet Riddle'Thar Redatta, the Main. The Riddle'Thar is more of a set of guidelines by which to live than a single entity, but some of his avatars like to appear as humble messengers of the gods, also known as the Sugar God. Lorkhan, Moon Beast. Pre-Redatta dynasty, Iniquinine deity, easily identified with the missing god, Lorkhan. Rajan, Footpad. Thief god of the Khajiit, who grew up in the Black Kyrgo section of Senchal, the most famous burglar in Elsewhere's history. Rajan is said to have stolen the tattoo from the neck of Empress Kyntyra as she slept. And that's all she wrote. Thank you for sticking through. I know this was a very, very long one, but I do enjoy talking about the little things, the books that really bring this world together. And if you've enjoyed yourself on this journey with me, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. If you have any recommendations for another piece of text, one that hopefully is actually in the game, please let me know, and I would love to go through it and dissect it for the next one. Yeah, bye. One crucial myth calls him the Sithist. One crucial myth, god damn it. One crucial myth calls him the Sithist.